What is up, you guys? This is Jared and you are watching Backroad Exploration, and today I want to give you a behind the scenes look at actually what happens in between my trips. One of the things that's really important to me is I want to be able to go on a trip at the drop of the hat. I want to grab my gear off the shelf, put it in the Jeep, grab the cooler, stuff it full of food, and head out. And really the only way that that's possible is by doing some things in advance and preparation. One of the most important of those things to me is a really good, thorough post-trip inspection. This is both of your gear and of the rig. While I'm out on trips, if anything breaks, I try to make note of it, put it in my phone in the notes, and then that way I can either replace it or fix it. And then after a trip, I always like to inspect it again, because sometimes as you're on the trail, things are moving around, stuff can, have friction and create holes in bags and things like that. And I hate getting out on a trip, finding that something is broken, and then after talking to my boys, find out it was broken the trip before, and if I had just looked at it, we could have solved that problem before heading out. So that's one thing that's really important to me. Another aspect, and even more important, is a really good inspection of the Jeep. So I'm not going to give you a comprehensive list of all the things that you should be checking. One, because there's already a bunch of those lists out there, and it's really dependent upon your gear, and especially if it's a vehicle inspection, it's dependent upon your vehicle. So in general, what I really like to do, I like to get under the Jeep, check and make sure that nothing is broken or hanging down, make sure there's no fluids leaking. I always like to hand tighten check as many bolts as I can get my hands on. If I find anything loose, I can get my ratchets, tighten things up, and make sure that we're good to go there. This is really important because if you find something that's wrong, now you have a couple of weeks to either get it fixed, replaced, take it into a shop, whatever you have to do to be ready to go. You're not finding out about it the night before as you're packing everything up and you see a little pool of oil or things like that. So I'm really religious about staying up on my oil changes and fluids. So I know that if I'm low, something's wrong. It's either leaking or it's burning. Something is happening in there that's not supposed to be. Like I mentioned, it depends upon your vehicle, but in general, head to a forum that's specific to your vehicle type. You'll be able to find a great list by someone who's much more detail-oriented than me, and it'll be a lifesaver out on the trail. It doesn't mean that you're going to avoid any breakdowns. Stuff happens. Go out, have adventures. Don't be focused on that, but you can prevent problems from happening by just taking care of those things. I also like to make note of potential problems. So for example, if I see something that's a little loose that shouldn't be loose, or something that's wearing, I can tell, I'll just kind of note it, and then I just keep an eye on it. You don't always have to replace those right away, but it's a good way of knowing, like, hey, this is a potential point of failure that you need to be aware of. Having said all that, if you watched my previous trip, you know when I was going up Pucker Pass, I hit some ice, slid into a rock wall, and I actually caused some damage both to my roof rack and to the hardtop of my Jeep, both of which I'm hoping to repair before I go on another trip next weekend. Here's what needs to happen. First, I need to go down to the auto parts store and get some prep stuff. There's just some touch-up paint that a lot of people use for their hardtop, so I'm going to get that to kind of take care of a couple spots where there's scratches. And in the back here, the ladder actually rubbed up against the back of the hardtop pretty good and rubbed off the paint. So I want to take care of that just to make it look nice, and so that it'll hold up over time and I won't have peeling of the paint and things like that. Additionally, I need to get some Scotch-Brite pads to kind of do some cleanup on the actual metal of the roof rack, and then I'm going to get some black Rust-Oleum paint to take care of the areas that got scored really bad. In addition to doing the touch-ups on the hardtop, I want to take care of the sections that got really scratched up on the actual roof rack. So I'm going to be picking up some black Rust-Oleum paint and some things to kind of clean it up before I paint it. I just want to do that to give it a nice coating so that it won't rust and that there won't be corrosion and problems like that down the line. Last but not least, I actually bent the roof rack a tiny bit on this back side, so I'm hoping I can be able to kind of undo where it's bent by putting a little bit of pressure on it with a come along, some things like that. So let's get going. This guy over here, he's got something going on. He's got these 4Runners and this Lexus. I think he's fairly new, because I don't remember seeing those in the past, and I drive by here all the time, but he's got some cool stuff. Nice little FJ. And we've got the Jeep family house. They've got a Gladiator and a JL. They must have the Gladiator out. My friends over at Point S, they do all my oil changes, stuff like that. Honestly, I love those guys because they do good work, and they're not always trying to upsell me on crap that I don't need. I don't mind like replacing stuff that needs done, but I hate when you go in and get an oil change done and they tell you 1,000 things that you need done, some of which you've already done, or different things like that. And these guys over here in American Fork, they never do that crap to me. Alright, well, try number one, that was a fail. Basically went to my local O'Reilly's because their website said that they had it. They do not. have the SEM trim paint. So looking at doing a little bit more research online, because once I saw that it was there, I just said, oh, that's really close, I'll just go grab it from there. Looks like nobody has it in their stores. Kind of a pain in the butt. This is all about like post-trip inspections and things you do to get ready in between trips. I'm curious of what you guys are doing. Do you have kind of a checklist that you use, a process that you go through after each one? I love to hear. I like to refine my processes. I'm very much a believer in fine-tuning things over long periods of time. I don't believe that any process is ever complete. So I would love to hear what you guys are doing to just kind of make the in-between time not only fun, but also a useful time in getting ready for future trips. So jump in the comments, share with me some of your tips. I'd love to learn from you. All right, so here's a look at some of the damage from that trip. I've cleaned it up already. You can see though from driving around, I've actually picked up a little bit of salt from the road, so I'm gonna wipe all that down again really good. And then I'll tape up over the window and over the hardtop so I don't get any of it on that. And I'll do some touch up through here, through here. I didn't do this damage, but I'm going to put it there as well. And then up here at the front, I need to clean this up a little bit better. You can see some of the red still there. And then I'll do that. Here's the thing. I'm not a pro at any of this stuff. I really don't claim to be a pro at anything, but especially not at like touch-ups and paint and body work and all that kind of stuff. So don't follow any of my advice. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. If it doesn't look good and I did something wrong, that's how it is. You can tell me in the comments and I'll learn from it, but I'm learning as I go with this type of stuff, so here we go. I'm not going to really be doing anything fancy here. I'm basically going to be using some low quality garbage bags to separate the sections that I want to get paint on and the ones that I don't, and tape it up. These garbage bags were meant for suckers like me looking for a good deal. I bought them on Amazon. I swear I bought like 10,000 of them, and they're such low quality. You can maybe hold like 5 pounds worth of garbage in it before they'll rip. So this sounds like a good way to use a few of them. I think this is the game plan. I'm going to spray here up and from here up. Then I'll come in, take care of that section, and take care of this section. Looking pretty good right there. All right, well, I'm taking a look here at my last coat that I did, and you know what? It's looking really good. I like that. I'm happy. Certainly not perfect, but I think you can see it's dented in a little there, but I think it's good enough. So I'm gonna start taking it apart. All right now I'm headed over to my friend Way's house. He is awesome. He's an engineer and he just loves cars, vehicles in general, and he's a super great mechanic. And he's offered to help me try to straighten this out. My come along is not in the best of repair at the moment. He's got a sweet 4Runner too, so he's built out some cool rigs before. He's got some amazing cars. You can almost always find him in his driveway working on something. 4Runner. Looks like he's working on some of his RC cars right now. They're awesome. Carnage! Carnage!
If we make this thing go this way, this will kind of
come back
in.
Okay.
So that's how I,
Yeah, I think it does. I think you're right. I'll bet you that stuck when it hit the wall. This kept it here, and then it bent in because that one's a little bit narrower. So
yeah, exactly. So if you have, this is probably close to a 1/4 inch of difference here.
Right.
You know, that 1/4 inch could be totally, you know, by the time the swing on comes, that could be totally what the 1/2 inch is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So if you adjust this, I think we can take it, bring it back.
Okay. I was basically going to choose between the Gobi or one other rack, and oh yeah, that's moving it pretty good. Okay. That's probably far enough.
How far is it?
Let's take a look at it. All right, so we upset the neighbor's dog, but basically I loosened these out. These are kind of your little backing plates that kind of help you adjust it. We loosened those out on both sides, and we've just attached this ratchet strap. We're just using a handy little tree right here, kind of bend it over, and we're going to pull it a little bit further to the left than it needs to kind of help break that memory of the other direction that it was on. And that should give us enough gap. We're going to grab a measuring tape right now to check it, but that should give us enough space that then we can readjust these, and it'll hopefully hold it right where we want it to be. So how's it looking distance wise?
Right now it's dead on even, 37 millimeters on both sides.
Okay. So we want to pull it this way a little more?
Yeah, we want to pull it more just so we can get rid of that memory.
Okay.
The reason I'm pushing on this is because when you have something like this, you made this fixed, right? You're pushing on here so it gives...
Buckles in a little.
Yeah, it buckles here in a little bit. And so, but I think it's better to use it. So.
Okay.
That looks a lot better. So the bottom here, just like where you did, do a little more.
Okay.
Looks like we can use a little bit more. Watch out, you don't want your hand to scrape on that.
Land Cruiser, they're all still bitter that I bought a Jeep, so they'll like seeing me in a 4Runner. They'll like knowing a 4Runner's rescuing me right now. and a TRD 4Runner at that with a 4-inch lift. Oh, this thing rides nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I really like the lift.
Okay, that's on. This up here is pre-closed.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good right there. Okay, so we're definitely in a lot better position.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Well, here is a quick look at the finished product. So you can see I still need to do the touch up on the top, but overall the rack is way more balanced. So on this left side where I hit up against the rock, we pushed it in a ton, and as I was looking at some pictures to kind of figure out just about how far it was, I noticed that originally it was a little bit off. So we ended up actually pulling on it for a while. It got dark, so I wasn't able to film it all, and then really balanced it out. So it's actually really even. The gap in between the bar and the Jeep, even more even than it was before I did it, which is good. So not only did we make the clearances better on each side, but we actually went in and replaced all of the hardware holding both the rack to the other parts of the rack and the ladder to the rack, which was really good because they're like a crappy, you know, stainless steel like coated bolt, and we went in and replaced them all with real stainless steel hardware that's not going to rust and be a lot better long term. So I can't thank my friend Way enough. He is awesome. I have to be really careful about what I ask him to help me with because he's just he's so willing to help. He would do anything you ask. So I try not to ask him to do too much because I know if I say, hey, do you mind helping me with this, he'll end up, you know, spending 2 or 3 Saturdays helping me work on it. But anyways, this is just kind of a little bit of a look into some of the stuff that I do in between trips to just kind of do that prep work to make sure that they go well. I'm going to be heading out tomorrow night on a trip down through Cathedral Valley, which is going to be really cool. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can catch that video. If you want to follow me on the day-to-day, check me out on Instagram at Backroad Exploration. Thanks for watching.